Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your friendly neighborhood Birdman here, just out of the theater. Saw 3 movies, a little on the tired side, but I'm going to talk about these movies for you, and I'm going to give you 3 reviews for The Flash, Elemental, and The Blackening. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Let's Talk, the series that's starting to turn into live Let's Talks. This is your friendly neighborhood Birdman, and today, let's talk about those 3 movies I said I was going to talk about. So, the synopsis for The Flash is this. Barry has been doing his thing as a superhero with the Justice League. He's been working with Alfred. So technically he's been like cleaning up a lot of Batman's messes. They say that in the film. We see that he has been trying to help prove his father's innocence. Now, his father has been accused of killing his mother years ago. And Barry obviously believes that his father didn't do it. And there was some security footage that would give him an alibi, proving that he didn't, in fact, kill his wife, Barry's mom. The security footage has been messed up, but Bruce has been helping Barry figure out how to fix the footage. So he sends him a flash drive, and that flash drive is perfect, but it unfortunately does not prove that his father is not the killer, because his father never looks up. He has a hat on, and the camera is blocked by his hat because he's like looking down. Frustrated, Barry sort of just like runs really fast. I know that sounds, yeah, he's the Flash. He runs really fast all the time, but he's running faster than he ever has. And he winds up creating what is known as the Chrono Bowl. Now, I'm not entirely sure if that's a thing in the comics. I'm not like really well versed on DC's comics, especially the Flash. I'm much more familiar with Batman books, but I always thought it was the treadmill, but again, I could just be wrong. But it looks like a treadmill. He's running in place, but whatever. He creates what is known as the Chrono Bowl, and the Chrono Bowl allows him to go to certain points in time, so he can literally time travel and, change things. You obviously see where the film is going with that. If you've watched any of the trailers, you know that he does go back in time. And he does something, I won't say what that is, and he kind of gets trapped in another timeline where his younger self doesn't have powers, but he still has his mother alive. That's all. That's where I want to stop, because going any further will delve a little too uncomfortably close to spoilers, and I really don't want to do that, because I think you guys should check this out. I like this movie. I'm gonna start with what I liked about this movie. Ezra. I thought Ezra was great. Ezra had to play 2 roles. He had to play 2 characters. And thought he did a great job. It's really difficult to portray 2 different characters. Trust me, I know. And I think he did it really well, because you got the younger version of Barry, and then you got the older, more wise version of Barry. And the younger version of Barry is incredibly annoying. Okay, like frustratingly annoying, but that is by design. It is by design. But I think people are not going to like younger Barry. But again, you guys have to keep in mind that it is on purpose. They address it in the film, because I think if they didn't address it in the film, people would like be really upset. I thought Ezra did a fantastic job, because I like Ezra as this character. I do. When my first review in the Did It Suck series was Justice League, and I remember talking about the Flash and just like not liking him, and that's young Barry. I think some people said that he was the best part of the original Justice League, and I'm just like, no, he's not. The acting, the skill to go from this awkward loner type to a more extroverted version of the same character. It's just, it takes skill to do that, and you got to give Ezra praise. Also, I really like the story. I felt the emotional beats really actually worked very well. I was like, I felt some type of way, about Barry and his mom, because, I'm very close to my mom in real life, and I can't imagine losing my mom and not having that person that I could just call at any time. Actually today is my mom's birthday. So, I talked to my mom earlier and we have a really good rapport. They have a moment, the Barry that we know with younger Barry's mom. It just works, man. I like emotional stories. I like when stories can give you like a really good love story, and that doesn't have to be romantic love. It could be platonic love. It could be love between a child and a parent. And that's what this movie does. It doesn't really give you like, a romantic story, like a lot of superhero movies tend to do. This one is showing you a child's love for their mother and a mother's love for their child. And that type of stuff really does work for me. Also, this is not a huge spoiler, but Michael Keaton returns as Batman. Not a spoiler. It's in the trailer. Like, if you were on blackout, sorry. Michael Keaton's in this movie as 1989's Batman. I thought he was great. It's Michael Keaton. Like, has he ever done a bad role? Has he ever played a bad character? I don't know. He's always done really well from everything that I've seen him in. So he just does the same here. I thought Michael Keaton was great in this role. He felt like a seasoned Batman. He's very seasoned, okay? Like, when you see the story, you'll understand. Very, very seasoned, and he is still kick-ass. My God, there were some action scenes with him that I'm just like, that was amazing. And speaking of Batman, Ben Affleck is in this movie as Batman, also in the trailer, not a spoiler. I loved his Batman suit. That suit was, oh my God, outstanding. Why has it taken this long to give us the blue Batman? Like, what the hell? That's the best Batman suit. The blue with the gray, they did that. Now, I would have liked if they did the Batman symbol in yellow, but like, I get the aesthetic they're going for because this is Batfleck. He has the big fat, Frank Miller Batman sign, but that blue suit was outstanding, dude. Also, the opening sequence of this movie is pretty stupendous. And I don't use that word often, stupendous, but that's how I would describe the opening sequence of this film. Since this is Zack Snyder's Flash, who is a comedic character, the opening sequence does have bits of comedy in it that I don't necessarily think worked as well as the film thought it did. Don't get me wrong, I thought some moments were pretty funny. Like, there's a sequence where Flash is in Flash time and he has a watch on that tells him his calories, because obviously he has a very fast metabolism being the Flash, and the watch tells him like if you're low calories, you're high calories or whatever, so he needs to eat in order for his Flash powers to work really well. That's something they just established in the film, and I really like that. I like that concept. I don't know if that's a thing in Flash books, and I'm almost certain it's not. Again, I'm not as well versed on DC books as I could be, but I'm not sure if that's a thing in the books. But it works in this universe. I like the idea that, hey, he has to eat in order to be as fast as he possibly can. And in doing that, they have a moment at the beginning of the film, which was funny and not funny at the same time. Like, do you know like how people feel about Love and Thunder, where the joke goes on maybe a little too long? I think this movie has moments like that. And while I don't necessarily consider that a negative, because, hey, different strokes for different folks. Some people are going to love the comedy in this movie. Some people are going to hate the comedy in this movie. I personally felt just in the middle. There were times where I was really laughing out loud, and then there was other times I'm like, well, that's going on a little long. But it was cool. It was cool. I like the opening sequence of this film a lot. I just felt like some of the comedic elements didn't work as well. And I think that's a symptom for the rest of the film as well. There are a lot of jokes in this movie, and like I said, the young Barry is going to come across very grating, so it's going to be, your mileage is going to vary, is what I'm trying to say. And of course, the fucking you-know-whos are going to be like, hey, this is Marvel's influence, everything has to be a joke now. It's like, no, it's not Marvel. It's just a thing. People like comedy, so the filmmakers try to give you, a little bit more or they try to give you exactly what you like. You know, you're paying for these things. So they're like, hey, you know, people are paying, let's give them what they're paying for. And typically, you know, people like comedy in comic book movies. That's just the mainstream. And the very loud minority that hates comedy in these things and wants everything to be grim, dark, and dour and serious all the time, they're gonna have a problem with it. That's all I'm saying. They're gonna have a problem with it, because there were moments where even I had a problem with it, and I'm very forgiving of comedy, being a person that makes comedy. I like comedy. I like it a lot. I think it's a great way to deliver whatever story that you're trying to tell. I just think that there are moments in this film that are going to annoy some people. But yeah, man, that opening sequence was awesome. That's just, man, Batman was kicking ass. You know, it kind of sucks that the DCEU is gone. So, you know, we're probably not going to be seeing any more of Ben Affleck's Batman. But he's good as Batman. That's just good casting, man. Years ago, I was on the fence. I've shut the fuck up about him. He is just great. And he's not in the movie a lot, but the moments that he's in, I think Ben's great. Ben is great as Batman. Okay, God, do you want to compare him to Michael Keaton's Batman in this? Like, they're both just good. Maybe it's just Batman. Maybe Batman's just such a great character that whoever plays him, he's just gonna be great. That character's gonna be great in the movie. DC does really well with Batman. It's their best character. Both the Batmans are great in this movie. That's all I'm trying to say. Another thing that I really liked was the score in this film. I thought the score was pretty dang good, but again, it's DC, and DC always does a fantastic job when it comes to scores. I think DC is probably the best when it comes to comic book movie scores, especially whenever there's a Batman in the movie. Danny Elfman's Batman theme is in this, which is like top tier stuff. But there's one that was so good that I was in the theater like, hey Siri, what song is this? And she told me the song, and I put it on my fucking phone, and I drove home listening to the song. The song is called Run. Who is it by? Let me see. Okay, it's called Run by Benjamin Wallfish. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. It's spelled Fisch. Very good song. Loved it. It's the melody from the piano. It just gets me. I wish the song was just longer. It's only a minute and some change, which was disappointing on the ride home, because I'm like, well, damn, I thought I was gonna get a nice little, heroic ride home. Now, as for the giant elephant in the room, everything you've heard about the visual effects is true. These visual effects are AIDS. Some of the worst I have ever seen. And it's impossible to not be distracted by it, because the film relies so heavily on CGI. I can't understand how the film was released in this state that it was. Now, I just got a tweet from one of my audience members, and they were saying, the director said, these are done on purpose. These bad effects are done on purpose. That's bullshit, okay? Because I think what he said was, this is Flash's world, so he's like running fast and everything should look warped or whatever. That would be fine if those were the effects that were bad. That's not what people are talking about, okay? The effects in this movie are just bad, okay? You remember the effects, how they were done in Justice League? You know, like the fake mustache removal or whatever it was? That's what it looked like. That's not Flash just being, running fast and the visual effects look warped or whatever. No, those are bad effects. It's like you paid an intern to do your effects for this huge $100 million movie, more $200 million. It's like, no, you don't do that. You take your time with the effects, especially if they're going to be as prominent as they are in this film. It is outrageous how bad the effects are in this film. I can't stand them. I'm bringing this film down a whole letter grade and a half because of the visual effects. They are that bad. and they are distracting. And there are moments where you have the two Barrys talking to each other, and they focus on one of them. So you don't have Ezra in both shots, okay? You have one of them, and he's CGI'd. Like, not the suit, because the suit just kind of looks bad, you know, and the CGI looks bad on the suit. That's what I think. But his face, his mouth, his nose, like, you see how you can see my face? That is CGI'd. And the other Ezra is not even in shot. He's not in the frame. They did not have to CGI that. Like, honestly, I'm flabbergasted at the decisions made in this fucking film with CGI. Like, who okayed this mess? Again, I can't like get across how disappointed I am with them and their special effects after years of comic book movies having really good special effects. Like, go back and watch, I don't know, Infinity War or Endgame, and look at Thanos's CGI and how incredible that was. And like, there are moments where you can see Thanos's hand and he has a callus on his hand. That's something they didn't have to do. They didn't have to put that in there. Who's going to notice that? You probably didn't notice that until I just told you. You didn't notice that. You didn't know he had calluses on his hands. Why does he have calluses on his hands? Does Thanos lift weights? The fuck? But that's the level of detail and care that gets put into certain movies and not into others. And I think DC has struggled with this a lot. And I'm like, dude, DC deserves so much better. They deserve so much better. They are juggernauts in the comic book world. And for them to just not get the respect that they deserve from the studio, I don't get it, man. I don't understand it. I really don't. Another negative, and I really hate to say this. Zod, Supergirl, Keaton, Batman. Those three on their own are actually fairly well done. Especially Batman. Thought Keaton's entrance was just hilarious and great. But when you get to the conclusion of the film, you're going to be like, okay, so what about those guys? Like, what happened? Like, what was the resolution there? And again, if I say any more, we're going into spoiler territory. But just, it seems like the movie forgets about them. That's the best I can do without spoiling anything. You're just like, okay, so the movie's ended. What the fuck just happened? Yeah, it just comes across as like wasteful in a way. They're integral to the story that is being told, don't get me wrong. But God, I feel like it could have been written better than that. Because seriously, when you see it, you're going to be like, okay, what the hell? What about those guys? But on the whole, I thought this movie was pretty good. It just has some little niggling issues that should have been ironed out, especially the egregiously bad CGI. Oh my, dude, I can go on and on about that. But some of the story beats, I felt I was left wanting more. I think a lot of people are going to come away with that. You know, the thing about comic book movies these days is that there's this like movement to shit on them and to, you know, nitpick them to death. And I think that's the wrong way to approach art. You know, art is art, right? Everybody's going to have a different interpretation. And I think that's wonderful. But what art is not supposed to do is to be nitpicked to death. You know, that's not the purpose of it. You know, if you look at a painting, you don't go, oh, wow, this stroke was in the wrong order. No. You actually appreciate what the artist was trying to get across and maybe give your interpretation of that. But I feel like this film is going to be nitpicked to death, especially with the time travel shenanigans. Look, man, time travel ain't real. Okay? Remember this. You cannot time travel in reality, or we at least have not figured out how to do so in reality. And the problem is because something like this doesn't exist in reality, like magic, it can be nitpicked to death. Reel it back in and understand that a story is trying to be told, and you have to, there's a certain leap that you have to take from one side to the other side. And that is called the suspension of disbelief. If you have suspended your disbelief that a guy can move faster than the speed of light, time travel ain't that hard to believe. Okay, it's been done a million times. I said all that to say that there might be some, issues that people come across and go, oh, this is time travel. Time travel, this is not how it's supposed to work. Reel it back in. Understand that art is not meant to be nitpicked in that way. Did the filmmakers get across what they were trying to get across? And if that answer is yes, then they have succeeded at their goal, and you have to give them credit for that. To me, that answer is yes. I do think that the filmmakers of The Flash succeeded at their goal. The VFX artists did not succeed at their goal. That's why that's a negative. The writing succeeded for the most part. There were some issues that felt unresolved at the end, and you'll see what I mean. It's just kind of, it's inherent to time travel stuff where, you go into a different timeline and then you try to get back to your own timeline, and there's some threads that, are probably going to be a little bit frayed. But I will say I had a great time with this movie. I don't think it's the best DCEU movie at all. I like Ezra a lot. Love Michael Keaton. Had fun. I had fun, I guess, you could be drunk and laugh at the visual effects of this because they are that terrible. But yeah, I think the majority of people that watch this movie are going to like it. And I'm going to go ahead and give this movie C+. I'm going to give it a C+ because this movie would have been in the B's if not for the bad visual effects. I'm sorry they bothered me that much. And I think for people who watch movies that have a lot of CGI, we've become accustomed to good CGI, and this shit looks like it was made in the 90s when CGI was actually really bad. And now they've transported through time a 90s movie to 2023, and you're gonna be like, oh, that's not good. All right, second movie, Elemental. So Elemental is the latest Pixar film. It has a really cute premise. I like the premise. I like the premise a lot. The premise is this. There's a world that exists elemental beings. So you've got beings that are made of earth, wind, water, and beings that are made of fire. All these beings sort of live in harmony with each other, except for the Fire Nation. It's very Avatar. The thing is, fire is destructive, right? Wind can be destructive, but fire just burns everything. So the fire people are sort of, they're like pushed to the side in society. So clearly this story is kind of an allegory for immigrants and racism and things like that. And I know those are like really heavy topics for a Pixar film, but here we are. Again, the fire people are sort of ostracized from society in a way. And I really found that to be kind of fucked up. It's like, you made all these accommodations for water and earth people and grass people and wind people, but you couldn't like figure out fire? It's kind of messed up. But the immigrant family has a daughter, and her daughter's named Ember. And they run a shop, and this shop is like their livelihood. It's really cute. Like, they have things that are like exclusive to fire. Like, they sell coals, stuff like that, like sparklers, fireworks. It's really cool. It's Pixar. They get this shit right. And this girl grows up, and her father wants her to take over his shop. She's doing everything in her power to, be a good daughter and try to take over her father's shop. But the problem is she has a temper, which is kind of on the nose. She's a fire person. So she's fiery. She has a temper. You get it. And her temper causes her to like not be able to connect with customers. So one day her temper flares up because of some, unruly customers or whatever. And she like explodes and causes a leak inside of her family shop. Now, the leak is water. So it's deadly to these people, which is weird that they even have plumbing in the first place to, whatever. So a water person gets sucked into the pipes and like burst out into her shop. And there we go. We got a budding romance between, forbidden lovers. Just everything is just so cute. That's the best way I can describe this movie. It's cute. It's Pixar. It's a love story. Come on, man. Everything is cute. And therein lies my first issue with this movie. It's just cute. It's nothing else. It's like, it's not as deep as it should be for a Pixar film. You know what I mean? Like, the premise was at the forefront and outshone this story, which is Pixar's typical strong point. Like, okay, when you watch Toy Story, you get the premise. Like, the premise is the toys are alive, but they also tell a story, and that story has overarching themes that hit you. And that's why Toy Story resonated, along with being a technological marvel back in the 90s. Whereas this film seems to care more about its premise than the story. The story is really thin. I gotta be honest, the main the main character is kind of one note. She's very family oriented, has a temper, but like wants more out of life. Like, how many times have we seen that story before? I just gotta be honest, I kind of felt disappointed in Pixar. I expected way more. And that's not to say that they didn't do a good job with what they did. I do like this movie. I think this movie's pretty good. It's just that I'm not expecting the premise to be at the forefront of the film. I'm expecting the story to hit me hard. And that's what I love about Pixar movies, man. I can go watch any Pixar movie and go, damn, yo, that story was tight. Like, the story was good. The story would work in non-animation. It would work in live action. The story itself is the work of art. The premise gets you into it, but the story, boom, that's what hits you. But this movie, it's more the opposite. It's like they got the premise down. Like, the water people have their own thing, the earth people have their own thing, and it's very deep and well thought out. It's just, the story is just kind of paper thin, man. Like, Ember and Wade, they fall in love so god dang fast. It's like, wait, hold up, man. I think that should take a little bit more time. You know what I mean? Like, I can understand if Ember had cakes, you know what I mean? You fall in love with that booty. No, I'm kidding, but like, it's just, I don't know, man. It just feels thin. Feels thin, man. The story doesn't really go anywhere. It's exactly what you expect. Immigrant family wants to, make it in society. They have a daughter who's free-spirited, and like, you've seen this before. You know what I mean? And like, I think that's the problem. When you watch a Pixar film, they tell stories that you have not seen before. Toy Story's story. Like, have you ever seen some shit like that? Where people are trying to figure out what they are, with the Buzz Lightyear character, and then you juxtapose that with a character knowing who he is, but trying to figure out his role in this brave new world. Maybe you have seen something like that before, but the way in which it was told was brilliant at the time. Toy Story was great. Cars, another story that's just, it outshines its premise. It's like, yeah, like sentient cars, but the story hit, and that was I don't think Elemental is gonna be like that, unfortunately. There are a lot of things to like about it. The animation is, Jesus, like going from the theater at the Flash, watching the Flash, to Elemental was, it's like waking up in the morning, brushing your teeth, and using mouthwash. Like that fresh feeling. That's what it was. It was just like, oh wow, what a palate cleanser. This looks outstanding compared to that bullshit I just watched. The acting in this is really good. I don't even know who's playing anyone in this movie. The voices sound very familiar, though. I don't want to look it up because, you know, my reviews are very honest. The actors that played these roles, really good. Wade gave me huge Seth Rogen vibes. That's just who he felt like to me. And I like the family dynamics. You know, Wade's family is far more lovey-dovey and not as fiery. Obviously, they're water people, so they cry a lot, which I thought was hilarious. And then the fire people, they're also lovey-dovey, but they're more stern, a little bit more serious. I do think the film was a little heavy-handed on the immigrant stuff, because like it's very obvious. Like the fire people speak a different language, and like they experience blatant racism in the story, which I think is something that should be explored. I'm not saying that shouldn't be explored. I'm just saying there was no nuance to it. It was, you're fire people, no fire people allowed. You speak correctly? Wow, that's great. Like, you know, I've experienced this myself, you know, go to Japan and speaking Japanese. I'm speaking pretty well because I studied Japanese in college and I was a really good student in college. And, you know, I've had a lot of Japanese friends or whatever. So I'm in a different country speaking Japanese. And then some people go, oh, wow, your Japanese is good. A lot of people don't realize how offensive that is, actually, to go, oh, this person that doesn't look like I'm expecting them to look is speaking my language perfectly. You must be special. It's like, no, like it's a language. Anybody can learn. Babies learn languages. So yeah, like the movie has moments like that. And it's man, I'm not saying the movie's bad. I'm really not. I'm just saying it's thin. There's a lack of nuance that other Pixar movies have. And the movie feels really short, despite being, I think, like an hour and 50 minutes. I forget how long it is. Let me just check. Yeah, it's an hour and 42 minutes. It just feels short because it just feels thin. The romance feels rushed. Everything is just on the nose. I don't know, man. I like the movie, but I can't say go to the theater to go watch this. Wait for this to come out on Disney Plus, because it's going to come out on Disney Plus probably like next month. You know, if you're subscribed, watch it there. You don't have to go watch this in the theater. God, you know, I really don't know what I want to rate this movie. You know, my gut tells me that this is a C movie, like in the C range. But I think that they get so many cute things done. It's really cute. But God, man, I'm gonna give it a C. I'll give it a C. I don't think I'll be rewatching this like I do Toy Story or Cars or A Bug's Life. But this movie it's thin. That's the best way I can describe it. Just thin. All right, third movie, The Blackening. So I'm laughing already. I just walked out of the theater for this one. The Blackening is my goodness. Okay, so here's the premise. It is a black people horror film. And I know you think you've seen this before because we've gotten Us and Get Out and Nope, which I wouldn't even call a horror movie, but it has horror elements, right? No, this is different. This is not the same as those at all, okay? You got a group of friends who've been friends for at least since college, I think, and they all go to a cabin in the woods where there is this masked killer forcing them to play a game called The Blackening. And this game, it's based on like black stereotypes. So for example, one of the questions was, name the 5 black people that appeared in the entire series of Friends. And they make a really great joke out of that. I'm not going to spoil it, but that's the game, right? So like it's black trivia questions. And that's the premise. It's these group of black friends who are in a horror situation and they have to play the game to survive. All right, hear me out, white people. Hear me out. This movie's not for you. I know I probably sound like Brie Larson right now, saying this movie's not for you. Here's the difference, though. I would like for y'all to watch this. I'm simply saying the movie has a very specific target audience, and it's us. You can watch it. It's just made for us. What I mean by that is there's a lot of jokes. And you might not get it. Some of y'all have been to the cookout. Some of y'all been invited. For those of you who have been invited to the cookout, you'll probably love this movie. All I'm gonna say. But you know what? When this movie started, I gotta be completely honest with you. First of all, the movie's low budget. It's decidedly low budget. So like that'll come across in the first 5-10 minutes of the film. And I found myself checking out at around like the first 5 to 10 minutes because this movie looked like it deserves to be on Tubi. It's low budget. And I was like, oh my God, really? That's what this is? Like the trailer made this look so much better. And the beginning of the movie is just, it's not good. There's one actress that was getting on my fucking nerves, and it's the light-skinned actress with the long curly hair. She came across as the black suburban kid that tries too hard to prove that she's black. Like the shit she was saying, I'm sitting there like, yo, that wasn't natural at all. You grew up with the white kids. And when you watch this movie, if you watch this movie, that'll probably be answered throughout the rest of the film because there's a reason, I guess, for that. But like, for me personally, I was not enthused on her at all. I'm sitting there like, yo, she's a tryhard, and I can tell she's a tryhard. Why was she hired for this role? I was mad salty at the beginning. I ain't gonna lie. And the funny thing is, there was a dude sitting. I always sit in like movies like these at the very front, not the very front, but like that first row where the handicapped seats are. So you have the wheelchair space, and then you have the seat next to there. So what I'm saying is there's huge spaces around me, and I really like that when I go to a movie theater. I love space next to me. And there was a dude that was sitting on the opposite side of that space, and they were telling black jokes at the beginning of this movie, and there was that try-hard girl at the beginning. That dude got up and left. White guy. I saw him just get up and leave. He never came back. So the beginning of this movie is not great. I said all that to say, stick with it, because this movie opens up like a flower. Honestly, that's the only negative that I could say about this movie, is the beginning of it comes off very try hard. Like, if you're black and you grew up where I grew up, you're gonna look at the beginning of this movie like, oh, these niggas are corny, like hella corny. But then you continue watching it and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand. And to me, man, I thought this movie was hilarious. I had a great time watching this. And I got to be honest, I was sitting there salty at the beginning, like, oh man, I signed up for some BS, some Tubi shit. This should be on Tubi. Towards the end, I'm like, wow, I'm glad I stuck with this. I'm glad I didn't follow that one dude, because this movie's hilarious. But again, it's black hilarious. They tell black jokes. And that means if you don't get those jokes, you're probably not going to like this movie. But for somebody like me that, like I grew up around, okay, there's a joke in the movie about spades. If you don't know anything about spades, it's stereotyped as a black people's game. And one thing you'll know growing up black is nobody teach you how to play spades. It's one of the most frustrating things, actually. I ain't gonna, man, I'm going back to some childhood trauma. Let me calm down. There's a joke in this movie about spades. And white people probably don't get that because y'all play like different kind of card games, which is fine. It's just black people play spades. And that's like, I'm not gonna say the only game we know, but like that's the game we play. There's a huge joke about that, and I busted up dying laughing. As soon as I heard the word renege, nigga, I was gone. And the crazy part is, I could see behind me, there were some white girls behind me. And I'm like, y'all came to see this? Okay. All right, cool. That's tight. And they were dying laughing at the renege joke. And I'm just like, I'm amongst family. But yeah, I like this movie. It's a comedy movie. So you have the black comedy aspect of it, which is like all throughout the movie. And then you have the horror aspect, which I gotta be honest, I think is the weaker element of the two. Now, at the beginning of the film, I thought that the horror elements worked better than the black comedy aspects. Again, I was almost checked out at the beginning, and then I just kind of like stuck with it. And the black comedy got much stronger. And then the horror aspects just kind of got weaker. And that's not to say that it doesn't work as a horror film, because it does, but it's a horror comedy. And you have to go in like expecting that. And on that respect, I think the movie worked really well. Actually, I think this was the best of the three that I saw, which is hella unexpected. But again, this movie has a very specific target audience, so I can't say I can recommend this for everybody. They do tell white jokes, and that might be offensive to some people. For black people, it's just a form of catharsis. We never mean anything by it. It's just we telling our experience. And, you know, I'm just saying, you know, if that's not your type of comedy, this movie's not going to work for you. But I like and appreciate all forms of comedy. I listen to racist jokes. I listen to white people jokes. I listen to black people jokes. I listen to Asian jokes. You know, I just watched Beef on Netflix, which was all about Asians and how Asian people get down. And I thought that was great. I loved it. So just saying, I'm a person that can appreciate all forms of comedy, but I know that like Matt Walsh is not going to like this movie. You know what I mean? Like Ben Shapiro is going to say that this is not film. Just like how he said rap is not music. He just like certain people ain't gonna like this is what I'm trying to say. But for those of us that do appreciate this type of stuff, I would recommend you go watch this. Actually, it was a pretty good time. I'm not gonna front. Like this shit had everybody dying laughing. And again, my theater did have white people in it, and the white girls behind me, they were laughing as hard as I was. I think that guy that walked out just totally missed out on some decent comedy. But again, it just probably wasn't his cup of tea, and I get that. So I can't really say too much about it. I mean, this premise is thin, like Elemental. It's just black friends go to a cabin in the woods. They find an old board game, and they're being stalked by a guy in a blackface mask. That's the premise. And they're telling a lot of jokes. They're telling a lot of black jokes, and that's it. And I think it worked. It's, you know, sometimes simple things just sort of hit. Sometimes they don't. I think this is one of those times they hit. So I'm actually going to give the Blackening a B+. A B+. I know that sounds like crazy. Like when you watch the trailers for it, you're gonna be like, bro, this ain't a B+. I liked it. That's how I felt. I think it's a B+. I think people should go watch this. Black people, go check this out. Please go support this because this is by us, for us. So I think y'all should definitely go see this. But if you're not black, your mileage may vary. And I'm just giving you a heads up. But I did think this was very funny. And I liked almost every character except that one girl at the beginning. But I think she sort of redeemed herself at the end. So I'll leave you with that. I saw 3 movies. I'm tired. I'm going to get some rest. If you've seen any of these movies, please let me know what you thought of them in the comment section below. But go watch The Blackening. I had a good time. I ain't gonna... Get out of here, y'all. Go.